Hi everyone and welcome back. Today we are looking at 8 tips for writing a better resume. Something that looks professional, is going to help get you noticed, and is going to help you get that interview or maybe even the job. So in addition to teaching this class, I've been on a number of hiring committees and have also at one point ran a division of a college where I had to do quite a bit of hiring. And I saw things and I still see things a lot like this where there might be some good information here, but it's all lumped together, right? So we're going to help work on getting your resume from looking like this to possibly something like this, a little bit more professional. And we will talk about how to do that. First, what helps you get noticed? Career Builder did a survey of over 2,000 managers, and 43% of those managers said that they look at a resume for less than 60 seconds. So what exactly are they looking for? We'll talk about in a minute. But more importantly, I think, are the things that are going to get you in the rejection pile right away. So according to this study, these mistakes would get you disqualified immediately. Poor grammar and typos, an unprofessional email address. A lot of college students don't think about that. They have some kind of funny email address that they've had like since middle school, and it isn't possibly the most professional. If somebody looks at that, they're not going to take you as seriously. No quantifiable achievements, so not stating exactly what you did in measured terms. Long paragraphs of text instead of bullet points. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. A generic resume that's not tailored to the job. A resume that's longer than 2 pages, and one that is missing a cover letter. If a cover letter is required, this is going to jump up from 10% to about 100%. You have to have both. We're going to talk about the cover letter in a different lecture. So here is an example. This is a real resume that I found online. Hi, I'm looking for a job, only for the summer though, because I got to go back to school. Thanks. What do I have to offer? I'm good with people. I wear your clothes. I'm a model, so I can sell clothes. So obviously, not as professional as it could be. Under hobbies, I donated my hair to charity. That's a nice thing to do, but it's not really a hobby. Problems with grammar, and really just a problem with understanding how a resume should be structured. So if this person is indeed a model, which maybe they are, that would be listed under professional experience rather than just what do I have to offer, right? And there's a better way of saying things like I am good with people, at least in a resume. In a cover letter, you can put it that way, but things like customer service or phone skills, those could be listed in a resume. So tip number 1 is to label sections. Again, if we look at that example from before, part of the problem here is that it's very difficult to see what her qualifications are because we've got level of education, we have possible salary, which is low, employment experience, present employer, job responsibilities, job title, dates of employment, job responsibility, and also she has her marital status, which is not really appropriate. I didn't even see that until just now. That's really horrifying. I'm in good health, but I want to lose 20 pounds. Why are you telling me this? But if she had taken some of that information and had some sort of labeling so that I can scan it very quickly. So the idea of labeling sections, if half the managers are going to look at resumes for no longer than 60 seconds, at least for their first go around. They'll probably make a yes, a no, and a maybe pile, right? So what you want to do is at least get into one of those first 2 piles, a yes or a maybe. And if they can see everything right away, it helps them to know if you are right for their position. If they can't see everything right away, this is just going to kind of go in the trash immediately. Obviously, this person doesn't know what they're doing. It's kind of what it says to them. So here's the other thing. Look at this. she specializes in Russian and Ukrainian languages. That's something that's very unusual and should be highlighted. Now, if you look instead at Alex's, I think this is not perfect to me. He tried to make this one page. He should have had it two. It's a very small font. But I have a summary of who he is and what he's done. I have his core competencies, so the things that he's best at. Then I have his jobs. Then I have the fact that he has a bachelor degree, his technical skills, all of the programming that he is able to do, and how he has been certified. So I would know right away, he's a software engineer. He knows these languages. He's able to do that, and he has the degree I'm looking for. He'd probably go in my yes pile. Tip number 2, bullets over paragraphs. Again, this becomes an issue of scannability. Can your prospective employer scan your resume very quickly and have a good understanding of your accomplishments? Your resume should be a summary of all of your accomplishments. So here, this is assistant court analyst. Her name's been blocked out, and she has this very long paragraph of what she's been doing. Now, I can kind of understand why she wanted to do this, because she's been working at this particular job since 1994. So likely this has been her only job from 94 to 2020, and either she's retiring or she's just looking for a career change, or maybe that position was closed, or she's been furloughed, whatever the case may be. The problem is, it's not just that it's long. It's that it reads like a narrative, like she's telling a story. I've been an assistant court analyst since June 2006. I first came in October 1994. Well, here's the thing. I already know that you started there in 94 because it's over here. So you don't need to tell me in your resume again the dates of your employment. And it's clear too that she got promoted while she was there, but she doesn't really show that very clearly. I've been working for the NICEF system since e-filing was first introduced to the county, and then she kind of talks. Some of these things could possibly be in a cover letter. I've been working with the NICEF system since e-filing was first introduced to the county. I am now looking to make a job change and transfer my experience to a new, more challenging position. That is appropriate for a cover letter. It isn't for a resume, because I don't want to read your life history in a resume. I'm going to look at the resume first, and if you fit the job, then I'll read the cover letter. And then I kind of sort through who's in the maybe and who moves to the yes, and then out of that pile, who gets the actual interview. At least that's been my process, and I think for most managers, that's probably the case. So here, I've taken basically the core of this and put it into resume format. So, court analyst, 1994 to 2006, assistant supervisor, 2006 to present. I don't have on here because it would be on the side where that position was, because she didn't have it on there, but that should be there as well. So sometimes you can have it on the side like this on the left, or you could have it here. So let's say that this is, I'm writing with a mouse, so it's a little bit different. Albany County Court System, whatever. It could be listed there or possibly above. So what are the major things that she's done? Proofread documents, manage databases, assist purchase office, liaison with public. And then in her core competency and skills and competencies, she could have things that connect to the skills that she's talking about. Liaison with the public connects to customer service, purchase offer, accounting, e-filing, she mentioned in here, and also it's here in proofreading documents, and then managing databases, right? So she could kind of have both of those things listed if those are some of her core competencies. She might have other things as well, but there's weird things in here like, and also when I first started, I cleaned. Well, you're not doing that now. You're an assistant supervisor. So, stick to the most important facts. But you can tell, at least with bullet pointing. The other thing that I don't have in here, but I should, is strong verbs. So you can see that: proofread, manage, assist, liaison. All of these are verbs to show that she's doing something. I did not, because she did not quantify stuff. So if she had some numbers in there, like proofread, I don't know, 400 documents each month for errors, including e-file cases, input. If she had put some numbers in there, that would have helped possibly a little bit. Managed 15 databases, managed 2 databases. How many was it? So the quantifiables, the strong verbs, can also help with those bullet points. Tip 3, don't exaggerate. Later you can change the layout, but if you're trying to get your first job or your first real job after school, you can highlight your education at the top to show that you have recently graduated and that perhaps you don't have as much experience, but you do have the education. What you don't want to do is, change the nature of your actual job to make it sound fancier than it was. So with your work experience, you can include smaller jobs you've held, including unpaid work, things like field work, internship, babysitting. If you've done that in the past, you can list kind of some dates there, any community service that you've done. And if you don't have that yet, as a college student, think about some of those opportunities. Part of your education is not just taking classes, but also looking for opportunities to learn in the real world. So having internships can help you. But I think that a lot of times when people are doing their very first resume, they make a lot of mistakes because they don't have as much experience as they would like. So here is an example. This is my actual resume. You can see from the college that I was living at the time. And I have my education up top. I was an intern and I was looking for another internship. So this is, I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can see. Here we go. This is the way that you do this. I know it's pixelated a tiny bit, but currently enrolled, and then the title of the degree, and then anticipated date of graduation if you haven't graduated yet. So that's what you want to do to show people that you are still in school, and here is when you expect your degree. There are many times, I know somebody this semester when I'm recording this who actually got a job that she needed her degree for because they knew that she was graduating in a couple of months. So the job was open. Someone told her about it in March. She applied for it, got the job, and her anticipated date of graduation was in May. So she was able to get the job kind of based on when she would be finished. I also have the high school that I attended. Now, I had this come up last semester. If you attended more than one high school, you only put the high school where the high school from which you graduated, and anything you majored in. If you had a certain type of diploma, you can put that there with the year. Now you guys can guess my age. I love that a lot. But the other thing, though, is that if you attended multiple colleges, it sort of depends what you want to do. Usually you only put the college from which you anticipate graduating. So if you're here at SUNY Schenectady and you're getting your associate's degree, then you would put that in there. Associate, let's say you're an associate of science anticipated in 2021, right? If you also took a couple classes at Hudson Valley, you don't have to put that in there. If you go to SUNY Schenectady and then you go to, say, SUNY Albany or SUNY Buffalo or College of St. Rose or wherever, then you would list both because you got a degree from both. So just kind of keep that in mind. The other things that you can see here, I did not bullet. I should have, but I didn't know enough to at the time. I did quite a bit here in this marketing intern. If it had been bullet pointed, it would be better. Learned industry best practices for annual fund communications. That is a slight exaggeration. And I wish that I had just said, helped or assisted with or learned about fundraising, just kind of simplified it a tiny bit. I was a camp counselor and I did some writing for school publications for trying to get an internship that was based in writing at the time. I thought that was important, so I did tailor my resume that way. And then I had a lot of community service and babysitting jobs and things like that, so I listed the community service down there. But here, cashier, sold tickets, balanced register, completed inventory, greeted customers, cleaned the theater. Yeah, that's what you do as a cashier, right? It's not like if I had put an exaggerated, oversaw a team of 12 cashiers, well, that would not have been correct. That would have been a lie, because that's a head cashier position, which is not the position that I had, not the job that I worked in. I put that I didn't bullet point things there. So you can kind of see, the writing here. If you need more room, we're going to talk about some other things that you can do later to kind of fill up that page. The education part is good. Sometimes here too, you can put in core classes that relate to the job that you are trying to obtain. So for example, if you're in fire protection and you've completed 5 or 6 fire protection classes, you can list those instead of your GPA and whatever. You could also list if you're in early childhood program and you've done classroom observations, you can have those under your education or community service, kind of depending. If you have a job that involves writing, you could list this class to show that you've taken technical writing. So there are some things like that you can do as well. Tip 4, also don't undersell yourself. So this is from a job site, and I think this is such a great example. The classic undersell, this is someone who worked in a computer lab, helped users with computer problems. So here's the thing, it's underselling because it's not really getting into detail about what the person did. And because it's not specific, it makes me just feel like, oh, okay, so like you turned them off and on, when that really isn't what the person, probably that wasn't really their job description. Oversaw technology uses among students, faculty, and staff campus-wide. That word oversaw makes it seem like this person, and they changed it to manager, that they were not the manager, right? They were just a worker. So this is an undersell, this is an over. And then here is just right. Solved computer problems via phone and email. Promoted to help desk leader following successful completion of A+ certification. So of widely varying technical abilities, assisted approximately 25. So again, quantifying it, strong verbs and numbers. I think probably if you were trying to get your first job, I would split possibly the phone and the email. Maybe, or faculty and staff. It says widely varying technical abilities, but it doesn't really explain. I probably would put more detail in here a little bit. Solve computer problems, blah, blah, blah. Approximately 25 users per week on average. And somewhere in there, maybe another bullet point, assisted with problems such as, and then list a few, because it's likely not just somebody's computer froze, right? Getting rid of viruses, installing updates, those kind of things. So be as specific as possible, strong verbs, and quantifying stuff when you can. Tailor your resume. It can help to have different resumes for different types of jobs that you are interested in. Or at least to take the basic sections of your resume and kind of move them around a bit. And I'm going to give you an example of one of mine in a minute. So, for example, as a college professor, I have a CV, not a resume. A CV stands for curriculum vitae. Um, Curriculum vitae it's your life's work, so it's your complete written record, whereas a resume is like a snapshot or a summary of your work. A CV is supposed to be really everything that you have done. So for someone who is a professor like me, I have a list of all of the classes that I've taught, all of the classes I've designed, all of my publications, every time I've presented, and I present something every semester, so it's quite long. So my CV is about, I think, 12, maybe even 13 or 14 pages long. For a regular non-academic job, that's not going to work because you can't turn in something that's 12 pages long. You need just a resume snapshot, 1 to 2 pages. So this, at one point right before the coronavirus, I was looking for an editorial position. If you're listening to this, like, in 2021 or 2023, hopefully that time in our lives has been forgotten. But basically, when everything happened, I decided not to go for this position because I had to change everything that I was teaching to move online. But at any rate, it did get me an offer. So here I have my name. So I blanked out my address and things like that. But I do have my website up there. If you have a website that's a professional website, or some people put their LinkedIn, which is the professional social networking site, you can do that too. This job that I was applying for was very specific, that they wanted someone who had a degree in English or writing, and that they wanted someone with editorial experience. So typically on my CV, I have my teaching experience first because I am primarily a teacher, but I also have professional experience as an editor and publisher. So I moved this section up. I detailed things a little bit. I changed some of the bullets to shorten it from what I have on my CV, which lists every book that I've edited. I don't have any numbers here for various reasons. There's a number of titles I've acquired. There's a number of titles I've edited, but I work for a small press and I didn't necessarily want the numbers there or the numbers per year. But at any rate, you can kind of see that this is sort of what tailoring looks like. And again, responsible for acquisitions, developmental editing, line editing, proofreading, and marketing. Those things were all in the job description. Initially, in my longer CV, they were all separate bullet points. So I wanted just one bullet point that summarized all of those things. Yes, if you need somebody to do acquisitions, developmental editing, those are big changes, line editing, proofreading, or marketing, I have experience in all of those things. Manage and read through queries to acquire new titles, which sort of has to do with acquisitions. Mentor new and emerging authors, which was another very specific wording that they had, and it is something that I do. So then underneath that is my teaching experience, and instead of listing every class on its own with details about what I've written, revised, assessed, that kind of thing that would matter for teaching jobs, I just have one bullet where I list all the classes that I teach. So that is kind of, sorry guys. So that's kind of an example of how to tailor your resume. Moving things around, using some of the phrases that they use, because when they're scanning it, those are going to jump out at them. So right away, people who are reading this can say, okay, she has the degree we're looking for. She's done editing. She's done some design stuff that doesn't really have to do with us, but it's on there anyway. She works well with authors. She's partnered with authors. She's mentored. Oh, mentored new and emerging authors. That's what we're looking for. Oh, and she's a teacher as well. And I got a call back the next day. And then the day after that, we went into quarantine. So the part-time editing work that I was looking for, I just didn't really have time for. But the point is that it did get me a foot in the door, got me noticed, got me the interview, and then you can take it from there. Tip 6. So there's a lot of debate about objectives and summaries. In past years, a prospective employer would use an objective section to convey a prospective employee. So you would have this statement, and I'm going to give you guys some examples in a moment. You'd have a statement kind of like let's say for the last job, I would have objective, obtain a position as an editor. Well, here's the thing about that. You're applying for a job as an editor, so I'm guessing that that's what you want to do, right? So you don't really need that. And then a lot of people would just tailor their resume to just change the objective. If you do have an objective, make sure that you change it for whatever job you're in. You don't want to be, I'm not going to apply for a teaching job with a resume that at the top says to obtain a job as an editor, right? The information, though, can really go in a cover letter. It's unnecessary. It's kind of old-fashioned. And even then, you're applying for the job. You want that type of a job. You don't really need it at all. Some job hunting services and places like Career Builder or Monster, those job board websites, they recommend having a summary instead. A summary is basically a statement that quickly describes what you've accomplished and how you can benefit the company, so the prospective employer. I think, again, that can go in a cover letter. Now, if you're doing a resume where it's your first job, then yes, have a quick summary statement. Here are the classes I've taken. Here's the industry I'm hoping to get into. Here's what I can bring to your company. It takes up a tiny bit of room if your experience is thin. It gives people a snapshot of who you are. It's also appropriate for explaining something like a time gap. If you have, don't be personal here. Don't be too personal. But sometimes if you have something like you were a stay-at-home mom for 5 or 6 years, or you were working from home with your own business for 2 years, that can go in there as well. But typically, and also if you have a job where a cover letter is not required and they just want the resume, then sure, put in a summary there. If you're looking to take up space and to explain a career change too. Oh, I forgot that one. So yeah, moving from one industry to another. So for example, I have some people in here in this class who are, in our bank fraud prevention certificate. So maybe you are a person where you've been a bank teller and now you want to kind of move up in your same industry, then a summary could possibly help to explain that change. Or if you are doing a totally different career change, like let's say you've been in working in an insurance office, but now you just got a degree in early childhood, then you can put that in a summary. So the objective, here's an old-fashioned objective, looking to obtain a position as a software engineer. Yes, and apply many years of experience and skills. It's vague, and I'm assuming that you are looking to obtain a position as a software engineer because you are applying for a position as a software engineer. So here instead is their summary. 10 plus years of experience as a detail-oriented software engineer, excels at learning new technologies and applying them, strong verbs, experienced at working in a cross-functional environment, and then some more, and then excellent, blah, 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 collaborative team player. Strong verbs here. This is a really good summary. Tells how much experience the person has, what they are experienced with and what they excel at, and that they are good at communication and being a team player. But you could have this paragraph in a cover letter. So if you have a lot of experience, which I know some of my students do, if you are already in your field or if you've been working for a while and you're looking to change fields or to get a promotion, do you need the summary? Probably not. You can take up the real estate of your resume, part of the page, with your actual work experience, and save this kind of narrative for your cover letter. You can see that I'll go back here. I've done that in mine. I don't have a summary here because my resume is 2 pages. So because of that, I don't want to take up room with things of that nature. But it really is up to you, and especially think about it, before you're turning in, if you're in my class. And if you're not, think about it a lot before you put your resume out there. Do I need that? Tip 7, know when to get fancy. I love this layout. That's just me, though. I think that there are some things here that so they have a summary in the About Me section. All their contact info is here. Education, skills, certifications. This is someone who's been working since 2011. So possibly they have more on the next page, but this is a really nice quick snapshot. It's very easily scannable. The problem is that if you are thinking about doing something like this, it's fine. Everything is labeled. I would capitalize that, but that's just me. But here we've got, the label, the date, the position, the place where they worked, and the location. Here's the problem. If you're applying online, which probably 99% of you will, unless you know someone where you're just going to hand them your resume, a lot of times people will need to put their information into a computerized format where the system scans your resume and then enters the data into their format. So basically, you can have a fancy resume like this if you're directly emailing the person in the HR department or the manager. It's great. Send it as a PDF document so that they can easily download it and share it. And then have another resume that basically looks like this. It's a text format. Now here it's just some marks to show where the things are, but those would not be there in the text format document. So I have both because sometimes I do look for smaller part-time jobs or things like editing or tutoring or whatnot. And I have to apply via these systems. So you can kind of see they have the career objective, which actually is a summary, even though it says an objective, technical skills, professional experience. The computer can very easily scan this, and then they'll ask you to look it over. So you'll want to look it over and make sure that all of the bullet points are where they need to be, that there's no problems. Sometimes the scanning goes awry and they leave out, commas or whatever the case may be. But really, it's kind of smart to have both for both kinds of applying. This one to send a person and this one to send a program. And also what I like to do too is once you get that interview, then you can have, a fancier resume for the actual interview. So take copies and just say, oh, do you need a copy of my resume? Sometimes they'll say no, they'll have the info in front of them. Sometimes they'll appreciate it and they'll want you, they'll want to take it from you. And these are ones that are a little too fancy. So first things first, this is sometimes used as, this is a resume I got from online, sometimes used as an example of what to do. Number one, you don't need a section for them to make notes. They can make notes. You're taking up valuable real estate with blank space, and it's trapped white space, which if you've watched the things about visual design yet, is one of my pet peeves. can't have this weird trapped white space with things going on all around it. It's the worst. Secondly, do not put your picture on your resume. It's really not appropriate for a number of reasons. You just don't, to be honest, it's just protection for yourself. You don't know what kind of prejudice people might have. So they might say, let me erase this so we can zoom in on this guy. Let's say that there's a hiring committee of 4 people and one of them says, what's up with this dude's hair? He just doesn't look like he's like that serious. He looks like he just wants to be out in California driving cars all over the place. Somebody else says, this guy's too young. He's not, I don't think he's going to work. I don't think he has actually the experience we want. And these are things they might not even say out loud, but they might just have kind of in their heads. You can imagine other issues. Too young and too old are big problems that people run into. Now, if they're looking for somebody older than you are or younger than you are, and then, they don't know from your resume, and you go in and dazzle them in your interview, they might not care about your age, right? But here, they're making a quick snap judgment. The other problem is that he actually has very impressive credentials, but there's too much going on here. There's way too much going on. He's got the career over here. He's got an infographic here about what he likes and dislikes. Disgruntled people or disorganized people having a work product. In my wheels, why? Less fuel, more fun. I don't know why that car is there. I guess to show his hobbies, but it's just too much. I actually kind of like the quick references here, but then he has this timeline where, by the way, he starts with when he was born. Again, it's not appropriate to tell things like that or to talk about how old you are. So, and when he moved, that kind of thing. So things like launched Brown Book and raised $1.6 million are getting lost in all of this. His education is down here, which may not matter as much in his industry. So just a little bit too much. What he does well, this is kind of cool. One infographic here with the numbers is kind of cool. If he had left that and the key skills, maybe deleted that in the picture, and he could have had things laid out a little bit better. I don't know. I do like the QR code, though, to go to his LinkedIn and his Instagram account. That is kind of neat, especially for that industry. This is known as the infamous My Little Pony resume. Beautiful, but unless you're applying for a job at My Little Pony, and even then, after graduation, be galloped to such and such to work as a radio DJ and freelance web developer. Somewhere it says this little pony went to blank and blank. He graduated with highest honors. Too much. And then stuff like this gets lost again. Languages. He knows some computer language for coding. He's got top 5% of his class, but then he has give me some credit. It's the largest competition. Just very strange stuff. So there's a lot lacking in terms of, he had an internship with IBM, and that gets lost with, freaking Buttercup or whatever. Tip 8 is stay professional. This is here we go. Eric, objective, to claw my way to the top by any means necessary. Reference, who better to tell you about than me? Now, the references. You need to have actual references. They cannot be yourself, and they cannot be people who are related to you. A lot of times I see people listing their references and it's like their mom and their aunt, and that's not appropriate. So you need somebody, a teacher or a person that you did an internship with, someone that you babysat for, any person who maybe somebody in your church where you've done work there, or a nonprofit where you volunteered, anything like that. Personal attributes, cat-like reflexes. So some of this is funny, but the reference thing, I have seen a lot of times people put their relatives on there or their friends instead of actual professional or academic resume. This one, and that's the only thing your employer is going to see. That's supposed to be his phone number. Apparently it really is his phone number. But here's the thing. What's interesting is we have somebody who can do financial modeling and analytics and data mining. But then you have rejected Buddha's teachings in favor of my own and full-time Wikipedia reader. But he did this website, which should be up there. And this, obviously, is a big no. It's also very difficult to see the difference between the education is kind of shoved in here with some of the experience. So even in just terms of flat out organization, it's confusing. And it's really sad because this guy has a lot of experience. He was a data analyst. He was a coordinator for quality assurance. But he just has these very bizarre things and he worked for Google at one point, but he has these very bizarre things that for a lot of employers would get him written off the list. Now, he might get one who's heard of him before or who thinks it's amusing and gives him an interview, but for the most part, that's not going to happen. I love this story so much. This is from a recruiting website. This person has this picture on their resume, not the actual picture. They kind of put in a different one. Again, don't put your picture in. They called her just to find out what the picture was about. And it was not even her baby. It was her as a baby. She thought it was cute. And she was putting it on her resume for a job that paid more than $100,000 a year. Here's the thing. To me, that says you don't understand this industry. You don't understand what you're doing. It's not even that it's not professional. It's that it shows a lack of awareness for the situation. So we talked a lot about audience, and that's going to be the most important thing when you're doing a resume. Your audience is central. So that's the last tip. Remember, a resume is a summary of your academic and professional achievements. Formatting is as important as content. A resume should be scannable, so it's easy to see all of your major accomplishments in under 60 seconds, which means it should be easy for me to grade. And it should help you get noticed, but in the right way. Be professional even off the page. This includes having a professional email address and hide your non-professional social media accounts. I have known, now the places that I've worked for primarily were not allowed to look up the people that we're hiring. We are only allowed to go by what is on their resume and what is in their cover letter and then what they say in the interview so that we're not biased. But that's because this is a state school and those are the rules. For most places that you work, if you're coming in for the interview, assume that they have tried to look you up in some way. Which means that what you can do is set things like Facebook or possibly Instagram to private, or if you have a more professional Instagram or nothing, necessarily bad on there, then you can have that open and possibly keep your other ones private. Your LinkedIn page, if you have one, is also great to use for networking. They send you a lot of nonsense emails, which is very annoying. But if you're looking for a job, it can help to be on there, and then you can list that along with your email address. But what I love about this resume is a little bit of color, just a little bit, just to be a little bit eye-catching when the person's looking at it. He's got a profile summary, because this resume actually goes just from 2005 to 2010, I think. So a couple of jobs, but areas of expertise, each job, where it was, how long it was for, and then the bullet points of the things that he did. Everything is labeled quite clearly. He's had been out of school since 2003, so that's at the bottom. Oh, I didn't mention this either, but I guess this is tip 9. Make sure that you do things from the current to the past, not the other way around. A lot of people get that mixed up. Your employer wants to see what you've most recently been doing. So that's it. Scannable, clean, professional. Keep your audience in mind, and make sure you use strong verbs and try to quantify stuff. And hopefully you can get the job you are dreaming of. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and I can't wait to see those resumes.